Hello. This is Andre with a new update around the mysocket.io work. Thank you for tuning in. So this is about the latest work that we've been working on the last 2 weeks or so. So I just want to give you an update around what's been happening. So the last few weeks, we've mostly been working on a new version of the mysocketctl client. We've received some feedback of folks that, so as you may know, the previous client was written in Python and you had to use pip to install it. Not everybody is super familiar with Python or pip, and there's always some dependency challenges. So what we really wanted was to make it as easy as possible to use the client, and to do so, we've rewritten it in Golang, which gave us the ability to compile it in different for different OSs and for different platforms. And so it's now super easy to download it, and you don't need to be a systems expert or have to fiddle with dependencies. So if you'd like to use it, you can go to download.edge.mysocket.io. And you can see the images have been made available for the various popular platforms, such as Mac OS X, Linux, Raspberry Pi, and Windows. You can click on any of these, then copy paste this, put it in your terminal, and then you'll have it. So basically it downloads it, changes the permissions, moves it to use a local bin, and then you're good to go. It's as easy as that. The various platforms, you can download it here. You can find the checksums. Also make sure to check out the documentation. We do spend quite a bit of time on making sure that is accurate. So you can find sort of general documentation about mysocket as well as the mysocketctl command line tool. You find a link to that documentation on our main page here as well. All right, so once you have, just download it like that or copy paste the instructions from the download page. We talked about support for multiple operating systems, so that's super easy. I've even seen it work on Windows, which was pretty exciting. I don't expect too many people to use it, but it's just pretty cool that works. One of the finally, if you're interested in the source is also available there. You can find the link either here on the download page or in our blog, and it's all written in Golang, so you could see what that looks like if you're interested in that. One of the things that I thought was very important is, since this is still a young project, we're adding new features all the time. We're making the user experience better, and which means that very regularly, recently, several times a week, we push a new version. And so I want to make sure that everybody runs the latest version. And so we want to make it as easy as possible to do so. So this new client comes with what we call a version check. So you can execute this command. And basically what happens is it will check what version you're running, and it will check if there is a newer version available. And if so, it will tell you that you should upgrade like that. So in this case, there is a new version available, so then you would just upgrade like that. It will download the latest version, it will download the expected checksum number, compare it, and if okay, it will overwrite the existing binary, and then you're good to go, right? So that's pretty easy. And so this version check is also executed every time you log in, so it will help you to make sure you run the latest version. Cool. Another new feature is what we call session forwarding. So what is session forwarding? Well, if you remember, normally when you use mysocketctl to make a service available, something that's running on your laptop or one of your servers, you typically run this client on the machine of the service that you want to make available. But it doesn't necessarily have to be like that. So typically, it makes it available to localhost and with the port that you specify, right? So you say, hey, I have this service running on port 80, make that available, and it will reach out to the mysocket edge cloud, set up a secure tunnel, and we'll forward all that traffic back to you to port 80, where it's served on localhost port 80. But what you've seen, or not, maybe 2-3 weeks ago when we did the demo with Kubernetes, we built this Kubernetes controller, is that we really built a sort of a sidecar type system. The controller actually would get all the traffic, but it would forward it to an alternate IP address, and that's an example of this session forwarding. So we made this now also available in the mysocketctl client, essentially actually for both the Python and the Go version. And you can now specify something other than localhost with --host. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, we talked a little bit about the Kubernetes example, but there might be examples of making a managed database available where you don't have access to the actual server, you don't have a shell or something like that. So examples are maybe managed RDS type system where you want to make that available, but you can't log into that box. So folks will have some kind of intermediate relay box that will run this client, and then you specify with -- host where you want that traffic to go once it pops out of the secure tunnel. Another example is appliances. Maybe you have firewalls or I don't know, IoT devices or something like that that you don't have shell access on, or you can't easily install packages on. Then you can run it on some other box and then forward traffic to where you want it to go using this -- host example. So we'll take a look at a quick example. So let's just pull up a shell. So here we have shell. I already downloaded it. If you don't, just follow the instructions on the download page. It's, it will take you, it's just copy paste and you'll have it in a few seconds. So first we'll log in. As you know, you can log in using -E and -P, but you can also just omit that and do it like this. And as you noticed, you can already see that it detected that there's a new version available. And what happened was every time you log in, it will do this version check. And you can see there's a new one. So there's a new one. So maybe we'll demo that. Let's do a upgrade. So we'll do mysocketctl version upgrade. And it's downloading, and that's it. And so if I run version check now, it will say, hey, you're up to date, which is great. And you can also do -V, and you can see like the build date and things like that. Excellent. So now that's out of the way. Let's do an example with the -- host example. So let's pull up another one. So how about this? So I'm going to connect to my Philips Hue lightning system that I have here in a different subnet, but it is here. In fact, maybe, yeah. So I'm going to connect. I'm going to make that available. It's running a web server. And so you can see this is a private IP address. And so if I open a little window just underneath here, and I do say mtr to that box, you can see that it's actually in a different subnet. There you go. But that doesn't matter because now my laptop will act as an intermediary. So if I click on this link, we just copy paste the URL. It popped up in a different browser. There we go. So I'll pop this up in here. And there is my Philips Hue system. So now it's available. So that's just an example of making an appliance available. That might not always be the best idea. So one of the things you may want to do is use the cloud authentication system that we built earlier, so last week. So in this case, I'm adding the --cloud auth flag, and I am going to specify my email address, atunc, as one of the allowed email addresses. So I'm doing the exact same thing as before, where I create a socket and I say, hey, create a secure tunnel to the edge infrastructure. I would like to make available port 80, but it actually runs on this other host. So once the traffic arrives on my laptop, the laptop will then forward, or the mysocket client will actually forward it to an alternate host. So it now acts sort of as this jump box. Now, because this is an appliance and IoT devices, which are somewhat notorious for security, I do want to put some kind of authentication in front of it. So I'm enabling this cloud auth feature. And then you can either say a list of allowed email addresses or a list of allowed email domains. And so I was very specific in which email address. So this is sort of the zero trust story. So let me copy paste that URL and put that in my browser now. So this one can go away. I'll put this over here. Okay, so as you can see now that it's actually pulling up a login page. So I'm going to log in with Google. So I'll use my Gmail account as specified. We'll do that. And now I'm getting a two-factor authentication message, which is great, right? Because we don't want single authentication anymore. So I'm just opening my phone now. And the app crashed, my Google Authenticator. Okay, yes, that's me. So I just accepted that. So authentication flow is happening using OpenID Connect. It checks the authorization rule to see, hey, who authenticated? Like not everybody with a Gmail account. It should be Andre or ATUNCAT, which worked as well. So now you can see that the IoT device is available. Cool. So with that demo done, another feature is we have the ability to allow custom identity keys, so custom public-private key pairs. So here's an example of how we use that on a Windows machine. The Python client is still available and it will still work, and it is the flags are exactly the same. I think going forward we'll invest mostly in the Go client, but so I encourage you to use the Go client. And then finally, I wanted to just real quick note about troubleshooting. For those of you who have put services behind mysocket, if you want to make sure or get a sense of the user experience, there's two things, right? There's two issues that can occur typically between the user, your customers, and the mysocket infrastructure. And then there is the path between the mysocket infrastructure and the other side of the secure tunnel to the origin. And so I want to talk a little bit about both of these. So to solve the first part, to kind of get a sense of the performance between your user and the mysocket edge infrastructure, we have made available a speed test. And so every HTTP or HTTPS socket now comes with a /.mysocket/speedtest URL where a speed test is run. And I intend to add more sort of troubleshooting things in there later. But let's take a quick peek at what that looks like. So here's an example of one. So and every HTTP or HTTPS socket comes with that. You can then run the speed test, ask your users to do that, see what they see. And that will validate how fast the user experience is towards our edge infrastructure. All right, so this is my cable connection, which is roughly what I expect. It should be 150 megabit with a little bit of boost capability and 15 megabit upload, which is exactly what we're seeing. So that will give us a sense of what the performance is between the end user and our edge infrastructure. And then we may want to know something about the performance between the edge infrastructure and the origin, essentially the performance of the secure tunnel. And so I want to point you to this line item that shows up in every log file. I'm going to highlight that. It's called response time. And it will report how long it took for our proxy servers to fetch the results from the origin over the secure tunnel. So you can see here some numbers. So you can see it's roughly between 70 milliseconds and 100 milliseconds. So this is really dependent on where your origin is and the capacity of the network that the origin is on. But I think with those two things combined, you can get a pretty good sense of how well it's performing and if there are any issues, where those issues may be. I think the response time is especially interested if it varies a lot. All right, so with that, you can do some speed tests. Feel free to share that with your users. And that's the end of this demo and this update. It's been pretty good so far. We're still having a lot of fun. And with this newly updated client out of the way, I look forward to go back and look a little bit more at the Zero Trust capabilities. So with that, thank you for your time. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, send me an email at andre@mysocket.io, or if you have issues with the client or questions, you can open a ticket here at the mysocket.io mysocketctl-go repo, or any other repo really, but that's the best one. Questions or bugs or feature requests can all go here, and we'd be more than happy to help you. All right, thank you very much and have a wonderful day.